Yeah, hello and also warm welcome from my side. It's good to be here on the stage again. And I want to take you through the implementation part. So I thought we recap a bit of what Mike said and go a bit more into the details of all the different points. But first of all, I want to start with what do we do in implementations? I mean, you probably all know our goal is to provide you with a harmonized implementation experience across the complete SAP solution portfolio for all customers. So cloud customers, hybrid customers, and on-prem customers. And we do this with Cloud ALM, where we manage your design, build, test, and deploy processes. And we do this out of the box, coming on a cloud-native solution based on the BTP, coming with SAP standard content for processes, but also for methodology content. We are open with APIs so that you can integrate into different other solutions in your landscape, and you will also see in the Almathon later on how our APIs can be leveraged by third-party solutions. But we also come pre-integrated into the existing SAP tool landscape and also with pre-integrated processes in Cloud ALM itself. And at the end, our goal is to provide you an environment that runs in a traceable fashion from your processes to your requirements down to the transports that you deploy to your production system. So from a capability perspective that we have, we always start with designing to-be solutions. So the goal is to provide you an environment where you can leverage SAP standard content, best practice content, where you can model your own processes or import your own processes with our own authoring capabilities, and then use these contents in fit-to-standard workshops to collect requirements, build up a backlog, and drive then from there your implementation or your transformation. The next thing is that we manage all the project activities. So also here we come with pre-delivered content based on the SAP Activate methodology, with the roadmaps from the SAP Activate colleagues, preloaded into Cloud ALM, that you extend with your own tasks and user stories, broken down from requirements or just loaded into the roadmap to extend a standard SAP roadmap to a custom solution roadmap that you need. And we do this in an integrated fashion with built-in reporting and with built-in analytics that allow you to really see where you are with your project in the implementation phase. Then the next thing is quality management, where Mike already said we now have the possibility also to do test planning and test automation, but that's not all. At the end, in quality management, we make sure that you can run all tests from user acceptance tests down to regression tests based on the needs that you currently have. And these are manual tests with a step-based approach, or automated tests now with Tricentis or other automated engines that are integrated based on our open APIs. And then the last thing is always to manage a successful deployment and a successful go-live of the solution. And therefore we have our charm features also in Cloud ALM that allow you to collect transports, to create transports from different technologies, maybe ABAP, it could also be based on the BTP, and then you can synchronize the deployments to production and orchestrate your go-live to make sure that you really move only stuff to production, which has before been tested and also successfully released by deployment and change managers. And all of that, again, with traceability from the requirement down to the transport and a complete audit trail. So I wanted also to share some facts and figures about Cloud ALM for implementation. So in the meantime, we see that we run around 2,000 active parallel projects in Cloud ALM. So that's a huge step up from where we've been a year before. And we have around 11,000 daily users in 110 countries. We create around 2K requirements per month. We have 82,000 scoped solution processes overall that are managed with Cloud ALM. We have 4K custom processes in the meantime maintained, where we do around 2K diagrams per month for these processes. We run 5K test runs per month. And of course, as there are some defects sometimes in projects, we also manage 5K defects per month, together with 2K created features per month that are managed with Cloud ALM with the attached transports. So we really see a huge pickup from our customer base. And as Mike said, it's only the beginning. It's getting more each day. We're onboarding more customers each day, and more users are active in Cloud ALM. And at the end, it's not really surprising to us, because over the last 2 years, we completed very much on our core capabilities. So we have now everything from design, build, test, and deploy. We just added solution documentation a few months ago, which allows you to capture also your solution documentation and is a starting point also for the solution manager transition. We have everything in process management with the custom process modeling. We have the project and task management with the execution and the tracking capabilities. We have now test orchestration with test planning and the integration of Tricentis. We also have the automated test capabilities. And of course, in change and deployment management and change and deployment orchestration, we now have integrated the most important deployment providers. I just wanted to highlight a few things that we did in the last month. I mean, this is BPM modeling, as you can see there, but we also released a process hierarchy in the process management area, and that allows us to model a custom hierarchy of processes where you can then later on not only attach processes, but we're working on that you are able to attach also documentation, that you attach test cases, requirements, and so on to this custom process hierarchy. We have now a landscape connection together with release management that allows you to capture your systems and your transport route in system groups, assign system groups to releases, and these releases can then be used for the planning later on of your features. But we also have now test planning, as I said, together with Tricentis, and in feature delivery, we integrated nearly everything that you need for moving your custom solution to the cloud. And on the level above, when we look at the users, we also did some major enhancement because we started years ago with very limited authorizations. So in the meantime, we integrated the possibility to create different kinds of projects. So you can have public projects that everybody can see. You can have protected projects that everybody can see, but only a few people can work in. And we have private projects that can only be seen by the people working in the project. Plus, we added more fine granular authorizations. We started in the deployment management, where we now have change and release manager authorization so that you can separate out deployment to production. We're working on extending that also to the other capabilities that we have, so that we have dedicated authorizations also for testers, for test managers, and so on, also for business users. We already have process authoring authorizations. So we're going into the direction to enable you to also work in a segregation of duty mode here. Plus, we have now support for the majority of the SAP solution portfolio. So you see a few on there. Of course, most users that we have are either working in CRO projects or in RISE projects, but we also have support for all the other solutions from SAP. So I think that's one of the major drivers why we see such a huge pickup in the adoption of the solution. In the last year, we delivered a lot of features, and as Mike also, I will not take you through all the features that we delivered, don't be afraid, but I want to highlight a few things. So in projects and tasks, we added a cards view. You probably saw it on the slide from Mike in the demo. You can now use a cards view to move tasks around to set the status to that. We have daisy chaining of items with automatic rescheduling. We have effort and duration management in there. So there's a lot of new functionalities that we were asked to add in project and task management. In process management, we have the BPM and editing. We have the process hierarchy, I already explained. We have the upload of SVG and BPMN diagrams. And of course, we also have new authorizations there. We added a solution documentation app. We're currently working on adding document types there, and we're working on integrating the document management solution so that you also can upload your documents to Cloud ALM. Testing, I said it 2 times, we have test planning, we have test automation, copy of test cases. So there we have a pretty broad coverage already together with the content for nearly all cloud solutions. In change and deployment, we have now also support for S/4HANA Public Cloud with the Adaptation Transport Organizer. We support pro code and low code on BTP, either with SAP Build or with custom, just plain development there, releases, system groups, creation of transports, and of course the fine granular authorizations. And then our core is always in analytics and reporting, so as soon as we deliver new features, we also always integrate this into our analytics and reporting capabilities. One highlight there is that we are just adding cross-project reporting, which was also requested by many customers, so that you can not only look at one project, but at a bunch of projects and basically do some program management there. We added more traceability options, integrated all the different new entities into the reporting. So it's a constantly changing and evolving thing there. Then tags and notifications. We started also with tags quite some years ago. We're integrating tags into all the use cases. We're nearly finished. There's still a few left, but we're actively working on that. We have managed to get in-app notifications working. Since a few weeks, we also have email notifications so that you can be notified when a task is sent to you. And of course, we are evolving that with merging of tags and better management capabilities. And at the end, APIs, we want to deliver APIs for everything. So we have in the last year delivered custom process APIs, process scoping APIs, resource change APIs for integration with MS Teams and so on. And we also will evolve that over time. And then there are a few integrations that we have built in, like we have with Cloud Integration Automation, with CBC, and Mike already mentioned Enable Now. And I thought it's worth showing you a bit how this looks like with Enable Now, because we have the possibility now in Enable Now to connect an Enable Now workspace with a Cloud ALM tenant, download a scope and the processes in the scope, and then start working to create your enablement content based on the scope in Cloud ALM. So this is being delivered within November by the Enable Now colleagues. The second step is that you can sync that information back to Cloud ALM into our documentation feature, so that you can then also see in a process, in the documentation sections, which training and learning content has been created. And the next step is that we then also use Cloud ALM to orchestrate the creation of learning content with the integration into task management, so that you can really say who should create a training for which process when. Now a bit on where are we going. And there are 5 points that I want to highlight for our next steps. And of course, the most interest that we always get from customers is, how do I move from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM? Mike already gave you a first glimpse on the roadmap. I want to take you a bit more into the details, but you can see on top of the slide, there's also a detail session by Axel, who takes you through the nitty-gritty details of that, where you can also ask your questions and get also an impression of how this will look like. So it's about, how do I take the content that I invested so much effort in Solution Manager into Cloud ALM. And we started with the selective data transfer approach with a process hierarchy report that allows you to download the process hierarchy. So for those of you who know it, in solution documentation, the iTunes style bar on top, and put it into Cloud ALM with the process hierarchy import. The next step is to take over documents. So I already mentioned that we're working on integrating the BTP document management service to upload documents to Cloud ALM. And having the next step of the data transfer will allow you to download everything in Solution Manager and then import into Cloud ALM. And also there's a session on that will explain you how the details look like. And then the next step is to bring in the library, the custom solution processes, and your test cases to Cloud ALM. And for those of you who follow closely, that's the first time that we show libraries on a slide, because we also got the question always, how do we deal with the library? So we're currently working on bringing a library microservice to Cloud ALM that will allow you to manage application libraries, executable libraries, interface library, development library, and so on and so on. And this will be the basis for the import of all the artifacts that you know from Solution Manager. And you can take that into Cloud ALM together with your BPMNs, your custom processes, and your test cases. Our plan is to release this by Q2 to customers. We will do a pilot node before that to verify it with selected customers and to make sure that it really fits to the needs and that everything works as expected. And then we will release it in Q2. The overall idea is to be ready when you are on SP15 of Solution Manager. And then we will evolve that furthermore. Next step is focus build. Lots of customers are asking us, what happens to focus build? How do I move focus build to Cloud ALM? And there we also have a session by Lisa and by Frank. And when you look at Solution Manager, we are in a very strict and controlled working mode. Whereas in Cloud ALM, we started with an open and flexible approach. And here the idea is that we now take over this strict process governance, the integrated process and solution documentation, the strict change control with constraints and so on, and also the quality assurance aspects from the solution readiness dashboard into the respective microservices. And Frank and Lisa will explain you what this actually means and how do we transfer that so that you can also run a focus build project on Cloud ALM. Then regulated environments. Mike also already said that we're working on allowing customers in regulated environment to have a tenant strategy that fits to them. In parallel, we did discussions with customers on what are the necessary features that they need. And I don't go through all of them. We cluster them from digital signatures to segregation of duty, to archiving support, to constraints that are necessary. And we came up with a roadmap on how we want to fulfill that. So there are lots of things that we are already working on or that we have already delivered, like the Unity ID concept, traceability, and we're going to enhance that. But we also will put on top the features that have been requested by our customers. And we put these into, I would say, 4 steps that we do it, based on the priority that we got from customers. Starts with test evidence, roles authorizations, constraints, goes over to versioning, custom-specific workflows, archiving and PDF support, 4i principle, GXP relevant attributes, and then at the end, custom attributes. And there's one thing on here that I want to highlight, that for customers who need digital signatures, we want to provide an API that allows customers to attach a digital signature infrastructure to Cloud ALM. And we see this as a perfect also partner opportunity because there are lots of digital signatures infrastructures out there that are used by customers that could be plugged into Cloud ALM. Then the next thing is conversion support. Many of our customers are moving from ECC to S4, and we also want to support customers with Cloud ALM in this conversion process. And in the session of Jörg Marenk, you will learn how we connect all the pieces, all the different tools from SAP in Cloud ALM to provide you with a platform to manage your conversion. And this includes the DDA tool, the Activate methodology, the test automation with Tricentis, the ABAP development environment in Eclipse, but also the readiness check that we are currently reworking to have a follow-up tracking of the readiness check items together with a custom code migration app that is fed into Cloud ALM. And also here we provide APIs for customers and partners to integrate third-party conversion tools into the game with tasks, with features, for different currently available partner solutions. And then last but not least, and that's only an outlook here, it's about the advanced use cases. We know, Mike already mentioned the cross-system object locks, downgrade protection, retrofit. So it's clear to us these are the things that you are expecting us to deliver, and of course we will also deliver that, but we will do it differently than in Solution Manager. Because these functionalities are very ABAP-centric functions, and there is no need for us to migrate all these functionalities to our cloud code base. So the idea is that we're taking these heavy ABAP functionality and move it out of the code line from ST, so the Solution Manager code line, into STPI, what we already have nevertheless in all our managed systems, and connect it to Cloud ALM via a check framework. Also here, Moritz can give you a bit more details on what we're planning and how this will work, but I just wanted to give you the impression that we are actively working on that, and that you do not expect that we provide that as part of Cloud ALM, but we move it to the ABAP stack. So a few things on the adoption use cases. There are 4 major adoption use cases that Mike already mentioned. It is the end-to-end implementation project management, it is the conversion support for S/4HANA, it's the automated regression testing, post-upgrade testing, and regression testing of your own, and it's the Clean Core initiative to synchronize the deployment of HANA and of BTP artifacts. And we have for all of these 4 sessions, for all of these 4 adoption use cases, not only the descriptions on how to do that in a PDF format, there are also sessions here this week that take you through the functionalities that we have. For example, there's a managed projects efficiently with Cloud ALM session by Priti. There's a demo on how to do this for Ariba and Business Network. We have the integration of the readiness check and the custom code migration app. We have readiness check clinics that you can attend to get more hands-on and connection to experts. We have the test orchestration and test automation sessions from Rainer on the testing part. And we have from Valeria, Frank, Moritz, and Boris sessions on how to use Cloud ALM with BTP, with ABAP transports, with S/4HANA public cloud transports for synchronized developments. So having that said, if you summarize what I just showed you, we are really going into the direction of providing you the harmonized implementation across the complete portfolio. We have a built-in transparency in Cloud ALM with our reporting options. We bring content with us, not only for tasks, but also for processes that you can use as a starting point and then extend it from there with your own processes. We're having a requirements management solution to run your fit to standard workshops. And of course, we have all the test management solutions for managing manual tests, for managing automatic tests, putting it into test plans, executing these tests, and at the end, have a full traceability with the defect management in Cloud ALM. And the best of it, it's instantaneously available. You just need to request the Cloud ALM tenant and start working on it. And it took me 24 minutes to talk without Gen AI, but guess what? There is Gen AI and LLMs also here. So we are currently doing a POC on the usage of Gen AI and LLMs to generate solution documentation. So what we can do here is we can extract the SAP standard content that we have, the process models, the custom processes, the requirements, and use that to generate, for example, in this example, a process design document for a given process. And by setting the context for this LLM, we can generate a shell, at least, for the documentation. And you see that running right here on the right-hand side. And then you can take this shell and put it into the documentation. Of course, you will need to enhance this. This will not be perfect, but it gives you a high-level structure of how to generate a process documentation based on your actual process, based on your requirements. The next step is to take that down into an implementation plan. So how do I cut this into user stories. How do I distribute these user stories? How do I describe these user stories? So it really helps you in creating or in reducing the manual effort to create these kinds of documentation and then putting it into action. And that's just a glimpse of what we're working on at the moment. And having that said, I want to thank you and hand it over to Janko for the operations part.
So thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Janko Butzig, CPO of the operation part. I will provide you with several information. First of all, strategy, and then we'll in particular talk about, let's say, new topics we are working on, to also talk a little bit more about strategic topics. I will not speak about the roadmap and the features, just to give you some strategic directions. This picture is very likely known to one or the other way. At the end, we differ between partner and customer managed components and SAP managed components. Using the term cloud is always a bit misleading, because what for customers is cloud is not necessarily for SAP cloud. So that's why we are talking about SAP managed components. We have as operation platforms, as on-premise operation platforms with two choices, Solution Manager as well as Focused Run. Solution Manager as well as Focused Run can be operated by SAP in the private cloud, or it can be operated by the customer or the partner. And then we have on the other hand side, SAP Cloud ALM is our offering for cloud-centric customers. So not something new, this is the current status. We are running all in parallel. Now, what is our recommendation? At the end, our recommendation is to move as fast as possible from SAP Solution Manager to SAP Cloud ALM, or to a combination of SAP Cloud ALM and Focused Run. We are relatively sure that we, from the coverage perspective, are prepared for this. This means there is no reason to wait. Everything what we had in Solution Manager, we have in one of our two platforms, with always very small details which are potentially missing. So we can clearly say it's now your time to move. We have in the run area 1,400 customers, active, productive customers, by far the most adopted use case in SAP Cloud ALM. So in this sense, it's now really your time to move. Again, we have one option. If you are a cloud-centric customer, then simply move directly to SAP Cloud ALM. Very straightforward. Again, the boundary conditions, you are cloud-centric, and this means you don't need to support huge on-premise landscapes. You have not to operate on-premise landscape in a very deep detail. So then you are the right person for this. You have a small set of ABAP systems, for instance, what you need to support, or you have your complete system management outsourced to a partner. Then it's really the best choice for you to move to SAP Cloud ALM. If you have a huge on-premise footprint, if you are a service provider, if you have a large landscape, if you have to operate very large on-premise systems, then we would recommend to you to use a combination of SAP Cloud ALM and Focused Run. Focused Run is very likely then in this case your leading infrastructure, but you need also SAP Cloud ALM to give you the data from the cloud. So typically you're moving then step by step certain capabilities to the cloud, and appropriately you will get the data in future only via SAP Cloud ALM. So that's why we see this as a perfect combination, using SAP Cloud ALM as a data proxy for Focused Run. And this means your target architecture looks like this. If you again are a cloud-centric customer, use SAP Cloud ALM as your owning operation platform. If you are a hybrid customer with a huge on-premise footprint and so on, then use the combination of Focused Run and SAP Cloud ALM as your target platform. To drill down a little bit in this particular topic, we have a small comparison here. SAP Cloud ALM addresses the needs of business users and IT users. This must be also clear. We have dedicated capabilities for business users at SAP Cloud ALM, like business process monitoring or business service management, versus Focused Run is really a tool which is owned by IT, full stop. We didn't take care about addressing the needs of business users. So it's really a technical tool. So this must be also clear for everybody. The second thing is, again, business process monitoring, we have only in SAP Cloud ALM. There is no need and also no intent to provide this as part of SAP Cloud ALM. The other way around, system management is only part of SAP Focused Run. Again, SAP Cloud ALM is our future, and the future of SAP is moving away from on-premise centric footprints. Appropriately, we will not invest in system management with SAP Cloud ALM. This doesn't make sense because this is a backwards investment. So we don't do this. If you need this, we have Focused Run as your platform. With Focused Run, you're also future-proof. We follow exactly the same as what we delivered for S/4HANA, meaning we are safe until 2040. So in this sense, you have here really also a future-proof platform if you need system management capabilities. And system management means here, on one hand side, large on-premise landscape with all the different system types we supported and we built over the last 50 years in SAP, but it also means very detailed analysis of on-premise stacks. And again, if you have to operate very large landscapes, then Focused Run is the right choice for you. If you're medium or large or small landscape, then SAP Cloud ALM is sufficient for you. You don't need something extra. The same with high volume systems. If you have systems, very large PO systems, if you have very large ERP systems, then also here you should run this via Focused Run. If you have mid-size things, large things, you can do this with SAP Cloud ALM. This is sufficient. But again, if you have extraordinary high footprints, millions of messages which has to be processed, then we would recommend to you to use Focused Run. And again, cloud-centric hybrid, which we mentioned already. I have not to repeat myself. Also important is SAP Cloud ALM is agentless and stays agentless. We will not add the complexity also coming from the on-premise world of agents to SAP Cloud ALM. As you know, we have all the same inheritance with Solution Manager. It was also always a major effort to operate agent landscapes. So we have now changed with SAP Cloud ALM. You don't need agents, and appropriately we will stick to this strategy. This means also we will support with SAP Cloud ALM ABAP systems, on-premise systems, plus some components like Cloud Connector, Web Dispatcher, and so on, but not the complete enchilada of on-premise systems. Also important, SAP Cloud ALM is a customer-centric environment. The tenant is owned by the customer, and you can only run the landscape of a customer in one SAP Cloud ALM tenant. You cannot exchange things between tenants and so on. This is all not envisioned. In Focused Run, you can run multiple customers in one system, and you can unify it appropriately. Then also just a feature comparison. In SAP Cloud ALM, we have only external analytics. This means we have not this cross-use case analytics, what we have in Focused Run, what we also know under the term Focused Insights. We have similar external operation automation in SAP Cloud ALM because we have so many operation automation engines, and we prefer to partner with the existing operation automation engines like IRP, like Workflow, like Automation Pilot. So why we should invent something new. In Focused Run, we have with the guided procedure an embedded operation automation environment, which we just utilize. And then also event management, this is splitted. We have event management and alert management separated. So this means we can also manually generate events. We have a stronger collaboration approach in SAP Cloud ALM versus in Focused Run, we have a stronger automation approach. Everything leads directly to an alert and has to be automatically processed. Now also, this is the customer view, now more the partner view. I mean, we have operation partners. As operation partners, we have hosting partners or AMS partners. And we like to give also the partners a good opportunity to serve their customers, our common customers. At the end, we have also here two flavors of customers. We can have customers who are cloud-centric, who just like to make sure that the customer can run their SuccessFactors tenants efficiently, or their Ariba tenants efficiently, or their BTP tenants efficiently. For this type of customer, we would recommend to work in the SAP Cloud ALM tenant of the customer, because here we have everything together. We can bring this together, we can set it up for the customer, we can do the operations for the customer as a service. So this is a good opportunity from our perspective for customers to grow. And then also on top of this, you can then build own operation flows, own workflows, define your own alerting and so on. So this is all up to you. If you need a centralization as a partner for this use case, you can integrate with your existing ticket system or with your existing, let's say, analytics tool. This is all possible. And we invest heavily from SAP Cloud ALM, we come in a second to this, in open up the infrastructure with interfaces, much more as we did in past with Solution Manager as well as with Focus-Run. So we are absolutely API-centric and open up and give all data also out. We come later on to this. The second option you have is obviously Focus-Run. If you like to operate a central infrastructure from the partner perspective, where you have multiple customers, obviously Focus-Run is your choice, and you can connect your on-premise systems with agents to the different customer network segments in Focus-Run. And you can also connect the cloud systems of the customer via SAP Cloud ALM to your Focus-Run system. So this is at the end also perfectly possible, and then you have one central approach, one central platform to run all your partners uniquely, put it like this. So this means, to sum it up, from strategic perspective, we are set. We have delivered all answers, and also to be clear, there is not any transformation planned. This means also this problem is solved for us, very simple. We don't provide you with any migration tool or something like this. This doesn't make sense also. This is our clear opinion, because we think for monitoring it's much easier than for build, for instance. You just set up a second monitoring, you let it run in parallel, and then you switch off more or less your original monitoring in Solution Manager and you use the new one. So there's no migration. Believe us, we made some experiences here with Focus-Run and Solution Manager. It adds more trouble than it helps. So simply start from the scratch, let it run, and then again, you switch it off if you don't need it anymore. So in this sense, we are perfectly prepared. You have all opportunities you need, all tools you need, all methodologies you need. Just start right now with going to SAP Cloud ALM. And now we come to things which are perhaps a bit new for you. So normally you could now say, okay, we are done, operations is done, we don't need to do anything anymore. This is not completely true. Because we have all our capabilities, all our tools, doesn't help much if you don't provide you with the right content. And monitoring comes with content. An infrastructure, an empty infrastructure doesn't have any value. And you can expect from us that we deliver the content for all SAP products. Everything what is in classical technology built, ABAP-based technology, is covered. Full stop. There is not much to add, so we are here in a really good shape, we can say. In all our monitoring use cases, from business process down to healthiness, we are covered. Where we have a little bit and struggle is with cloud-native applications, as we called it, which are partially built on BTP, on the business technology platform, and partially also, let's say, came to us via acquisitions. So here we have to increase more or less the efficiency to instrument these applications. And we originally started and say we give to our cloud LOBs interfaces and they send us the data. Somehow this was not so successful as we expected. And then we started to work in the direction of OpenTelemetry. Now, what is OpenTelemetry? OpenTelemetry is an open standard, which is not coming from SAP, so it's really something coming out of the open source community, which first of all defines certain formats for traces, for logs, for metrics. So it's a kind of semantic convention, if you like to say so. And it comes also with certain out-of-the-box instrumentation artifacts. This means it delivers you certain libraries, certain support that you can lower the instrumentation effort for your applications. And this we adapted now for our needs. This means with this we have now an approach, and again this is all available what I mentioned here, we have now an approach to ease at the end the instrumentation of the applications. And this is used for our SAP internally, for our SaaS applications on one hand side, but it is also now offered for customers. So if you're building your own applications on top of business technology platform, you can also use our libraries. And again, we are using standard OpenTelemetry whenever it fits, but we also understood and identified that we have to enhance it and making sure that also the things which are missing, like application management, business process management, where this open source community doesn't have a clue that we need this we added at the end to instrumentation. So we have now a perfect bundle together, coming with open standard and open telemetry and certain things on top coming from SAP. We unify also push and pull, so we also like to support existing pull interfaces and unify this to open telemetry. We also unify between customer facing and SAP internally. So also SAP internally we are using open telemetry. So this means this is also a kind of convention we find also with our internal observability teams, that we're using here one instrumentation approach. And also quite important, another pain point is what we like to address with this is that we replace tenant-to-tenant connectivity, where we connect a managed tenant directly with an SAP Cloud ALM tenant, which has to be managed by the customer, that we replace this with SAP managed connectivity. This means we establish already the connectivity, everything is running in the SAP Cloud, and we just use the connectivity when we need it. So this means the customer has not to take care anymore about the connectivity with the associated authorization, certificate management, and so on. This is always painful. So we go here also the next step to also relieve the customers from maintaining the connectivity. We exchange obviously then with this approach, but also cross data center the data. This is all not visible for you, but we do this in the background. We route the data appropriately. What is quite visible for you is we provide you also with a complete set of APIs. And again, this is a major investment for us. Also in comparison to Solution Manager as well as Focusrun, we provide you now also with raw data APIs. This means you get the finest granularity of data. So everything what we have in SAP Cloud ALM, we provide you in a unified approach, so that you can use this data, and this is at the inbound and at the outbound side. So you can also send us the data. So if you have in Salesforce.com, for instance, and this is integrated with SAP, then you can send us also data from the Salesforce.com in SAP Cloud ALM. So this is also our expansion story, if you like to say so, to the non-SAP world. So we see here really a lot of potential. And now I like to give you a short demo. So there's a good tradition also to give in the keynote demos. Let's see whether it's working. So this is now real user monitoring, and you see now here we have all types of instrumentation for HANA Cloud and so on. And what we just now enabled recently is now also business technology platform Cloud Foundry, which is built with open source components, and appropriately we did also now the instrumentation with open telemetry. And this gives you now the visibility in your applications. You see now here, we have here, for instance, a certain application which is now executed a certain time with a certain response time. Let's go one step further, there's only one activity. And then we see here how such a process can be tracked. You see here, for instance, what is measured at the front-end side, what is from the front end, which is in this case in Windows 11 front-end operating system with a COM 117 browser. We send certain requests to a microservice in the BTP, and then there's another microservice called, and here also an SQL statement is sent against the HANA database. So now you will think this looks quite similar as we know it from ABAP, and this is exactly our intent. But this instrumentation is now done with OpenTelemetry. This means we are using here standard OpenTelemetry things, and we get the instrumentation out of the box. It has not to be done in the source code. It is all done with our library, and this opens us now also the world to the future, more or less, that we at the end using here existing mechanisms coming out of the open source community to achieve exactly the same as we had before also for our classical approaches with proprietary instrumentation. So this is the big difference. So this means you can now follow exactly from front end via back end to the database layer or to an associated backend system which is perhaps other-based, you can follow this complete approach, and we correlate also the data together. So this means you get a complete end-to-end monitoring. So this is an area where we are heavily investing. Can we go back to the slides? I need my clicker. Thank you. And again, it comes with openness. This means we like to make sure that you can consume this data as well as that you can send us data. You see on the left-hand side all our use cases, and on top you see the different signal types which we have in OpenTelemetry, which are logs, traces, and metrics. And you see always the inbound and outbound side. This means over time we will have a complete coverage. In 2023 we have already a good coverage, and we will close this exercise with the help of Xavier, here he is, also until end of 2024. So in this sense, this is really a new, how shall I say, a new opportunity also for partners, because again, we never gave out the raw data. We changed a little bit here our mindset. We just give out aggregated data and not the raw data. We change this now. We give you the raw data, and you can do whatever you want with it, as well as you can send us the raw data. Yeah, so it is really a huge opportunity, in particular also for customers. We have also very interesting conversations with our partners. We are working together with AppDynamics, Splunk, Dynatrace to tailor with them also the API sufficiently. AppDynamics and Splunk becomes easier because we are now both owned by Cisco, so we will see how this is evolving. So in this sense, also here, we more or less try out with them together whether what we are providing them is sufficient for them, as well as what we are getting from them is sufficient for us. Good. This is the one strategic topic, OpenTelemetry. The second one is AIOps, and again, always at the end, we have to say something about AI, and we do here this in a good tradition also. So in this sense, let's share with you also what we are planning to do here. First of all, AIOps is a broader term, and this is also not related to this new hype we have now with Gen AI and so on. AIOps, this term is out since 5, 6, 7 years, and it's all about automating things, analytics, and using, at the end, AI mechanisms to make your operations more efficient. Yeah? One approach is analytics, and as I mentioned already, in SAP Cloud ELM, we have embedded analytics, we have external analytics, and we are investing heavily to make it easier also for consumers to consume this analytics data. We have, for instance, also with the help of Xavier, built a plugin in Grafana so that you can directly get the data in Grafana and can work with the data however you want. Now, what we are planning, in particular for performance-related data, it is quite difficult to define sufficient thresholds. If you make it too sensitive, then you get tons of thresholds. If you make it too rough, then the important thresholds are not received by you. So this is a problem we have already since a while. That's why I said in SAP Cloud ELM, we will not invest in manual thresholding for synthetic user monitoring and real user monitoring. To be honest, it took us a while to, let's say, find the right algorithms, the right mechanisms to go in this direction, but we made now, in particular in the last quarters, really good progress, and we investigated in particular in synthetic user monitoring to have now dynamic thresholding. How it's working, it's relatively simple. It sounds simple, but it's not so simple. At the end, we take always a sliding window. We're always looking back, let's say 3 weeks or something for the sliding window, and we calculate a baseline, what is normal at this point in time for this scenario is performance value. And we calculate here a kind of yellow threshold and red threshold, and then we compare more or less during the execution of your things always with this baseline. And again, this is then always pre-calculated all 3 days, and we get this always for free on top of this together. So this means you have not to maintain any threshold anymore. Now this is only usable for what we call equidistant data delivery. So if you have always all 5 minutes data. This is obviously not the case for real user monitoring. For real user monitoring, you get data or you don't get data. It depends on the real user, on the behavior of the users. So that's why we need here something else. we call this change point detection. It's simply another approach. It's another algorithm we are using here, and here it's working differently. This means we monitor permanently at the end the performance, the response time, and if we see that for a longer period of time we have a certain critical performance, then we consider this as an alert. It's also a completely different approach, but again serves the same target to avoid that we have to define thresholds. Also, let's say we will deliver this in Q4, Q1 next year. And then the next thing we are working on, which is also nearly ready, that is that we generate out of, with the help of Gen AI, scripts, automation scripts. Yeah? So this means, as we saw it also in the presentation of Michael, that we have this prompt, and with the help of this prompt, we are guided to, at the end, define also automation scripts in the appropriate scripting language. So this is also, I think, will be also introduced at TechEd, so very likely will be delivered in Q1. So also here I like to give you a short demo. So can we please go back to the demo? Okay, let me show this to you. So this is synthetic user monitoring. I make this a little bigger for you. Sorry. Yeah. So you see here, oops. Sorry. I don't know why I cannot show it. Okay, perhaps I describe it here. It's cannot show you the outlier. You see here, these are the calculated thresholds, this red curve and this yellow curve, and below you see the measurement. And if we have now any outlier, if we go now over this threshold, then we can clearly say this is really a behavior that is not expected. If I see, again, calculated the 3 weeks back, and appropriately I fire an alert. Good, let's go back to the slides. Okay, and this is what we plan to do. As you see, we will also adopt this approach for several other use cases, in particular for everything what is time-based. So here we will add step-by-step the things, but also with Gen AI, we add more and more capabilities. The same is, by the way, true with FocusRun. In FocusRun, we have a much broader coverage already of existing AI use cases. We have anomaly prediction, which predicts already production down situations. We have alert correlations where we cluster certain alerts for alerts which are fitting together. We have metric forecasting, metric threshold recommendations, and so on. So here we are a bit faster with the adoption here because, again, we had a longer history already. And also here we are planning several additional things which we will add step by step also to the functional scope of FocusRun, make more use of AIOps. And with this, I close my presentation. I would now ask the colleagues from Joschka from CIMAC, as well as Bas from Basic Cloud Solutions, to give us their story. Nice to have you.
So thank you, Janko. Thank you, Michael, as well, for introducing us and introducing the topics as well. We'd like to thank you as well, or maybe apologize a bit, because we're literally the only thing that's keeping you from lunch. But we'll try to make it as quick and nice as possible. I hope we're standing close enough to one another for the camera as well. Great. So first, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Joschka Plu. I'm Competence Center Manager at CIMAC ITNL. And today, Bas is with us.
My name is Bas van der Poel. Together we will present how to get the most out of your SAP and hyperscaler cloud investment.
But before we do that, we are from the Netherlands, and we think that not everyone here is from the Netherlands, and we want to shortly introduce to you where we are from. So, You might know us, maybe, from windmills, or Amsterdam, stroopwafels, cheese, French fries, tulips, Van Gogh, Vermeer, André Rieu, Afrojack, or maybe a bit the sport direction.
Our swimmers, our runners, Mathieu van der Poel, he's not related, and obviously Max Verstappen after last weekend. A little bit closer to work, we've got Heineken, for obvious reasons, ASML, Philips, Shell.
And you also might know HEMA, Jumbo, or maybe GDE. So that's the country that we come from. You also might not know the companies that we work for yet. So short introduction on that as well, and then we'll go into the details. So I work for CIMAC. CIMAC is a family business, and we exist for a bit more than 52 years already. And we do a very broad amount of things. So you can think of your internet connection or your workspace, but also, of course, SAP, which is why we're here. And sometimes we work together with partners because we feel that together we can create more value than we can do on our own. And as I already mentioned, BCS is with us here today.
I work for BCS, also a family business, but a little bit younger. We started in 2014. And what we do, we focus on cloud and SAP. So we call our consultants full stack administrators, and we help our customers modernize their SAP landscape to hyperscaler cloud.
And as already mentioned, today we are going to tell you something about how you can swiftly move from maybe an on-premise solution to a hyperscaler cloud. And then after that, we'll tell you a bit more on how you can properly monitor your environment in the operations phase.
So we've seen this slide from Janko, I believe, and I was happy what he said. It's a lot of different terms. When Janko and I first met, I thought I was talking about public cloud. So it's for us, it's the top one. We know how to move your current SAP landscape to any hyperscaler cloud. So AWS, GCP, IBM Power Cloud, Azure. We do that every day of the week. So if you have plans on getting there, call us. And we do it in an orchestrated way. That was the other surprise today. A lot of presentations already mentioned automation and orchestration. So what I mean with that, we automate all the automated steps that you need to do to move from your on-prem to hyperscaler cloud. We use Cloud ALM together with CIMAC. So we've got our predefined project plans, tasks, and test approaches in there. So we have a migration assessment services for SAP, and that helps us to do this quickly, more efficiently, and in an orchestrated way.
Yeah, so basically during the whole migration phase, before, during, and after it, you need to have a proper project plan, and with the help of the predefined project plan and test planning in Cloud ALM, we can manage these phases properly.
So the migration assessment service for SAP has a discovery phase and a testing approach. Dependent on the discovery, stakeholder alignment, network design, all these steps is what we discuss, what we have predefined plans on, but every migration is different. Especially every migration of interfaces is different. And this sounds really silly, but if you migrate your interfaces, you need to know what you're going to be migrating before you really know what you're doing. A lot of interfaces only exist on your production system. The same for your third parties listing. So we have I call it a migration sniffer, interface sniffer. It's not how I'm supposed to call it. We have a discovery. How do you discover which interfaces do you have, so you can do your migration quickly without making a lot of, without losing a lot of time to human possible mistakes, but also human handovers between the different phases in your project. Next to the Cloud ALM, we have a full stack administration solution. We call the solution Symphony, and that's what we use in combination with CIMAC, with Cloud ALM, to automate the complete lift and shift from on-prem to hyperscaler cloud. This saves a lot of time, a lot of cost, a lot of possible mistakes, a lot of rework and retesting and delay, but also it saves a lot of time in handover and possible miscommunications between the different teams when you do a lift and shift. We call this orchestration. So we automate all the automated steps that are in that process.
So we've heard quite a lot about orchestration already, but can you tell a bit more about it?
Yeah, if you look at this slide, this is, and I'm a little bit older, same as some people in the room, used to have those cookbooks, Excel lists, Word documents with all the steps that you need to execute. This is a migration template in Symfony that automates all the activities that you need to do to migrate to your new target system. So it's, if I explain this to my mother, she was a nurse before she retired, I automate automation steps. And I hope people in the room understand what we mean by this. It saves a lot of human possible mistakes, but don't underestimate, it also saves a lot of time. If I do my bit, I have to hand it over to the next phase where Joska needs to do it. That saves a lot of time if that just keeps on going in one flow. And it saves a lot of possible miscommunications. If you look at the bottom, last year we migrated the over 30 SAP systems from Evident in Germany here. And we did that in 12 weeks time from start of the project. So talking about network design, the landing zones, all that stuff to go live. And because it was orchestrated, it went in one go and there were no testing results on the lift and shift part. In the end, a lot about orchestration. So for me, if you orchestrate and automate the lift and shift, it means near zero downtime for your production landscape. I think the business will be happy with that. The execution plan is a predefined document that you can use. We've got our interface sniffer that tells you what interfaces you need to focus on. And in the end, same for your third-party list.
Bas, you just told us that for Evident it took 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Does that go for every customer?
No. No. If you go to the next slide, there's a lot of factors that influence the timelines of your migration. If you look at on the right side of the slides, you see a Dutch bank that took more than a year. Network design, approvals in a financial company takes a lot more time and a lot more effort to get that done. If you look at the second one from below, that's a big Indian retail company, it took 3 weeks. The testing requirements for that organization were a lot less than for the bank. So that makes a big difference. Yeah. In the end, it's not about how you migrate, it's mostly about how do you orchestrate it and how do you cope with your interfaces.
So then you are finally migrated and then you're in the operation phase. And we have a couple of best practices that we recommend, so to say, to properly manage your operations phase. So first off, the top one, zero-touch operation. Bas already mentioned it. We use the tool Symfony to migrate you to a hyperscaler. But this tool can also be used in your day-to-day operations. So think of password resets, an upgrade, or a refresh. With the help of Symfony, this can be done much faster and also with no mistakes. Should be a bit careful with that because the tool, of course, only makes the mistakes that you tell it to make. That's the power of orchestration. Yeah. Bas already mentioned full stack engineers. So with the help of Symfony, you can eliminate or limitate, I should say, the handover time. But if you're full stack engineers, so people who do not only know SAP, but also the hyperscaler that you're running on, that will help you a lot as well. Cost governance, there are a lot of advantages of running in a hyperscaler. You can easily scale up or scale down, but you do need to keep an eye out on that just to be sure that you don't randomly scale up and scale down every time and you make a lot of cost, maybe because of redundant things that are still up and running. And lastly, as you probably know, the hyperscaler from 3 years is much different than the hyperscaler that we're looking at now. So keep an eye out on the improvement roadmap of the hyperscaler itself, but also of your own company and try to align those. But these are things that are very nice to think of if everything is up and running. You need to make sure that your SAP landscape is monitored properly because you can only think of these things if your day-to-day operations are going well. And that's where Focus Run and Cloud ALM can become very relevant for you as a company. So Janko has already showed you this slide and our marketing team has given it a CMOC look. But it's basically almost the same, and as Janko already told you, if your landscape gets bigger and more complex, it might be interesting to think of Focus Run. But maybe for your company it's not very beneficial to have Focus Run, or you just for any other reason don't want to have Focus Run yourself. And that's where we've come up with a service with a very clever name, Focus Run as a Service, where we can help you. So what does it mean? It means that we connect your SAP systems to our Focus Run. And with the help of our in-house expertise, so our in-house consultants, we can help you decide what functionalities of Focus Run do I want? What functionalities of Focus Run do I need? Which KPIs or thresholds or parameters are interesting for me? And as we have all the functionalities of Focus Run in place, it's very easy to customize it to your needs. That's also what it says in the middle, fit to your needs, because we have a modular approach, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in the next slide. Focus Run needs to be up and running as well, of course, and that's why we monitor it with Cloud ALM. So, I already told you we have a modular approach. So first off, you have a base. We think that if you have Focus Run, we feel that you need to use these functionalities at least to get some value out of it. And then together with our consultants, we can sit down and see which extra functionalities do I need. And I won't go into any details about functionalities itself, but that is what the modular approach means. If any issues arise, we also have technical application management to solve it, of course. But with the help of Focus Run, you can monitor your environment with the dashboards yourself as well. Most of this I already mentioned, but what are the benefits? So if you take Focus Run as a service, we have the experts in-house to help you implement it, to help you configure it. You can decide whether you would like notifications, yes or no. And luckily, Janko mentioned it already, with the help of Grafana, we can customize your dashboards even more. So not only with colors or stuff like that, but maybe also other data that can give you an even broader overview of how your monitoring is going and how your SAP landscape is running. Janko mentioned it already, if your landscape is getting more and more complex, it might be interesting to think of Focus Run. But for me, it was a bit difficult to grasp myself, when is it big? When is it complicated? And one of my consultants gave a very nice analogy or metaphor, or how you want to call it. And he said, imagine that you push a button, and every time you push the button, after a minute, a cheese sandwich comes out. And the button makes a connection to store A, where you get the bread, store B for the butter, and store C for cheese. And every time you press the button, 1 minute. But then all of a sudden, you press the button, and it takes 3 minutes. And you're wondering, okay, it's taking longer, that's a bit odd. Doesn't matter, I'm going to store A, store B, store C, and I'll figure out where the problem lies. But now you want to get a BLT sandwich, and you need to go to many more stores. And the stores are also working together with one another because they supply ingredients or whatever you can think of. And now if you want to figure out why your sandwich is taking so much longer, it gets complicated. You cannot go to every store, and you cannot manage every partner they're working with. And of course, Focus Run can do much more than just telling you why things are taking longer than normal, but it does give a bit of an idea, for me at least, why sometimes more complex landscapes require monitoring such as Focus Run. And here in this example, we have a use case in which one of our customers experienced that something was taking longer than normal. You can see it in the orange line. It goes higher than the threshold, which is the green line. In this case, it's a Fiori app. And we can see this in synthetic user monitoring, and when we dive deeper in real user monitoring, we see that 3 requests, so out of many, many more, we filtered only the requests that took too long, that 3 requests are running slowly. And in this case, we've clicked further on the top one, and we can quite easily see that the issue lies in the database. So without having to go through our full SAP landscape, we can quickly find where the problem lies. Of course, there are 2 other requests that we need to look into, but with the help of Focus Run, we can much quicker find the problem and know quicker how we can solve it. So, looking at the time, I think we did quite well.
I do hope there's a BLT sandwich at
Yeah.
lunch.
Me too. So, thank you very much. We hope that we've given you a bit of a clear overview on how you can migrate to a hyperscaler and also how you can use Focus Run as a service to monitor your landscape. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are here during the ALM Summit as well. And I'll give the word back to Benjamin.